Well, hello and good evening or good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are at whatever time you are listening to this video, which is our number 4 in the series. The subject of the day is remediation and mitigation, and we will explain the difference between these two terms, between remediation and mitigation. We have over 30 installments in this series, and we do not dare to present you all at once because I don't think that I will have the power or the strength to do them all at once, and you probably will not have the patience to listen to them all at once. So we broke them to smaller installments. I've been in this business, my company and I have been in this business since 1988 in the phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessments and contamination cleanup and abatement. And we do these free introductory consultations. You can always call me anytime with any questions, present to me reports that you don't understand or any issues that you struggle with. My email is amia@amiadini.com, telephone 323-899-5001, website amiadini.com. You will find all of these presentations over there. The SBA, U.S. Small Business Administration, they stand behind probably most of the commercial transactions where loans are involved. And the institutional lenders, most if not all of them, they follow the guidelines of the SBA. And the SBA says that when you do commercial transaction, there are certain environmental policies and procedures that you need to follow. They are part of their SOP 5010-6, Standard Operating Procedure. 5010 and the 6 means this is the 6th revision of it. It's a huge SOP, and they have a whole chapter about it's a book about environmental policies and procedures, and they say that almost all of them need to do environmental investigation reports, and then they say that these are mandatory for the transaction, and they say that all such reports, all transactions screen phase 1 and phase 2 ESAs, environmental site assessments, bold letters, must be performed by an environmental professional. So those who do the reports must be qualified as an environmental professional. And the question is, who or what is an environmental professional? And the answer is in the EPA regulations. You go to EPA sites, you put the keywords EPA and environmental professional, and it will open up, it will tell you who or what environmental professional is. So when you retain one, you to do the work for environmental site assessments, it better be an environmental professional, and it must be stated so. The EPA describes in their long descriptions, they say who qualifies as an environmental professional and what kind of certification and license they need. Let's see what educational requirements. They state what the experience that they need, and it must be a relevant experience. So you can take a civil engineer or mechanical engineer, and they practiced, they had a beautiful, rich, very professional practice, say in air conditioning or in development of land, but they may not qualify as an environmental professional because the experience has to be relevant. In my case, and I'm giving you my case first because I'm proud of it, of course, and secondly, just as an example to illustrate environmental professional, and I'm not saying that I'm the only one. So in my case, I graduated in 1964 in mechanical engineering with additional credits in nuclear and chemical engineering. spent the next 20 years, 8 of them in nuclear facilities, operation, maintenance, what else we did? Construction of nuclear facilities, and then about 12 years in the chemical plants. Graduated to 1989, became a California general engineering contractor, specializing in the removal of hazardous substances. So since 1989, under license with the California Licensing Board, and that requires some qualifications and experience and knowledge and certification. So they have allowed me and certified me to remove hazardous substances. The state of California at one time had their own registration, and they registered me as an environmental assessor level 2. And in level 2, they decided that they acknowledged that I completed all the requirements for the most stringent level of environmental registration provided by the state. As an REA2, they said that I was a project manager who can conduct all assessments and investigations, plus issue cleanup opinions, that's important, issue cleanup opinions, evaluate risk from contamination, and manage the cleanup of contaminated sites. And so this is a pretty high, acknowledgement. And as I said before, I'm not the only one. You will find quite a few very qualified environmental professionals out there. And I'm very happy and proud to belong to this group, and invite you to, basically, if you ever need us, give us a call. So here is a sample project that we did recently in the neighborhood called Silver Lake in Los Angeles, where we cleaned up sites contaminated with pesticides. Quick illustration, all these concrete debris that you see here are impregnated with pesticides. Sorry, this huge monster that you see here with hydraulic hammer breaks these, how do I say this, pedestals, or what should we call it, these huge pieces of concrete that used to be foundations. We have to break them in order to take them to the proper hazardous waste landfill. They don't accept them in those huge blobs, if you wish, and we have to break them. And when you break them, you generate dust. Just take a hammer and a chisel, hit on concrete, and you will get a puff of dust. So we generate a lot of dust, and this dust is impregnated with pesticides, which are carcinogenic, and we need to protect our worker. So we spray water on it to quench it down, but even not the least important are the neighbors here. Children, families, old people, young people. We don't want them to inhale dust which is laden with pesticides, so we protect them. We put monitors, you don't see them all around the site. We monitor it every minute of the day, and if there is any speck of dust just above a very stringent levels, we shut down the operation. So this was a very nice operation that we did, and I have expanded on it a lot more in another presentation. The great thinker, philosopher, and physicist, Niels Bohr, 1885-1962, so he lived reached 77 years, and he was a Nobel laureate, so Nobel Prize winner. He said, every great and deep difficulty bears in itself its own solution. It forces us to change our thinking in order to find it. So the solution of the problem is in the problem. When we look at a problem, we better not think about the solution, but think about the problem. What really are the components? What make it a problem? Why is it a problem? Okay, before we even try to figure out any solution. And by the time we figure out the problem, by magic, it's a magic, the problem disappears. You don't even have to find a solution for it. And I can attest to it by actual experience. The subject of today is remediation. And when we do phase one, I'm sorry, when we do phase one and phase two, we deal a lot with the subject of remediation. That is remediation necessary. So what is remediation? All right. And the SBA and the lenders always ask, do we need to remediate? Did you find contamination? Yes, you found it. Oh, do we need to remediate it? So what is remediation? All right. So by remediation, and this is very important, by remediation we mean so the processes by which we remove or reduce contamination to such levels that are recognized by regulatory authorities as safe for public health and the environment. I think that I invented this definition. I don't remember taking it from any other place, but if you find it in some other places, then let me know. But that's basically a common and well-accepted definition of auto-remediation. And remediation is not absolute. We cannot remove contamination to the last molecules. And it's just prohibitively, it's basically impossible, number one. And if you're trying to reach it, it's prohibitively expensive. So we need to be practical, all right? What do we mean by remediation? And we mean is we remove it when we go to remediate it, we depend on the regulatory authorities that they tell us if the levels that we are at now, if those levels are safe for public health in the environment. We as consultants, we do not establish those levels. We don't have the means to study and to research and decide what is healthy and what is not healthy for public health in the environment, and we rely on the authorities. So every time we remediate a property, we ask the authorities if it is done under the oversight of the authorities, and not every remediation is done under oversight of authorities, but this is a different subject. When we do it under oversight of the authorities, or even when we do it not under the oversight, we always look to the numbers. What are the numbers that tell us that this contamination is safe? And we have those schedules and in the regulations and tabulated schedules that tell us for every chemical what is considered to be safe. And when we remediate, we try to get down to these levels. We cannot always reach them, but we try. So basically, again, remediation is to such levels that will be recognized by the authorities as safe. We have to ask for their opinion. So if you ask me, Ami, is a property remediated? I will tell you, look, I think it is, but if you want to know for sure, go to the authorities. And we can talk more about it. And I know this is a sensitive subject, and you are invited to call me, and we can discuss it at greater length at any time. So when we deal with contamination, we have our 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, all right? So the original apocalypse, what do we have? We have, I think this is Conquest. This is Mr. Conquest, Mr. War. This is a famine or pestilence, and this is death. Yeah. So this is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. In our case, our 4 horsemen that are going to doom the transaction are the contamination of soil, contamination of groundwater, contamination of soil vapor, and contamination of indoor air. These are the ghosts that we fight, if you wish, the threats, the panthers that are sitting in the door, the black panthers that are sitting at the door of the transaction and don't let us get in, all right? So again, in remediation and mitigation, we'll talk about it more, we are looking into these media, call them a media, where the action is happening is the media, soil, groundwater, soil vapor, and indoor air contamination. And here is an illustration of these 4 problems or 4 evils. So here you have a landfill, and there are some discharges in it and contaminated the soil. So this is contaminated soil. Then it gets down to the groundwater, and you have groundwater contamination. And then it evaporates, and you have vapor in the soil, all right? So this is soil vapor. contamination. And then it may enter into a building and become an indoor air contamination. So these are the four evils that we are fighting in remediation. Here is one example. Our client owns this apartment building. A phase one was done by other consultant. They said they were concerned about this facility, a dry cleaner, and dry cleaners are known that many of them have contaminated soil and soil vapor. By actual statistic of the EPA, about 70% of dry cleaner, historic, I should say, not modern, but historic dry cleaner operation, about 70% of them contaminated discharge contamination to the soil and to groundwater and soil vapor. So the consultant saw dry cleaner here, they said we are concerned, and the bank required a phase two, and our client retained us to do a phase two. And we poked hole around here, we sucked out the vapor. We found out that the soil vapor was contaminated. There was this subterranean cloud of contamination moving under and further away from the property. This apartment building was sitting on a toxic, kind of, I should say contaminated, not toxic yet, contaminated soil vapor, but the levels were such very, very low that it was not considered toxic. We reported it and they got the financial transactions, they got the loan. So how do we remediate soil vapor? In the case of soil vapor, one technology is soil vapor extraction, SVE. So we extract the vapor, the toxic vapor from the soil. So how do we do the extraction? Similarly to what we do at our home, at the household, by vacuum cleaners, all right? So we have here a vacuum blower, not dissimilar to the small vacuum blowers that you have in our vacuum cleaner at home. But this is, of course, much more powerful. So it creates strong suction. And the suction goes into these vertical pipes. We call them wells. And they go deep into the soil. And down below, at the zone that we are interested in, we perforate the pipe. It's perforated so that the air from the surrounding can enter into the perforation. And why does the air enter? Because we create suction. Like we suck it out. Like when you have a straw in a glass of water and you suck out the water by creating a suction, right? So we suck it out and we perforate the pipe at the zone that we are interested in. For example, in this case, you see here the contamination, the contaminated soil vapor sitting in the ground. Excuse me for just a second. So this cloud is sitting in the soil, and it comes to reason that we want to suck where the cloud is. We don't want to suck here at the upper left corner, right? Groundwater is not contaminated, so we don't want to suck it out from groundwater. And we want to put the perforation where the vapor is, okay, where it resides. And so in this specific case, I illustrate two wells. One of them is inserted right into this cloud, subterranean cloud. The other one is by the side of it, and the one in the middle suck a lot of it, and the one on the side suck the periphery of it, all right? And what is important here when we do this on technology, we need to remember that not every soil is conducive to this technology. If we have soil which is highly dense, like highly dense clay, this technology may not work there. And highly dense clay and silt, it may not work. If you are working inside the rock strata, if the rock is solid, if this is, how they say, cemented sandstone, it may not work there. So we need the geologists, and we retain them when we drill down to tell us what kind of soil, and the soil is not heterogeneous. I'm sorry, it is not homogeneous, it is heterogeneous. And sometimes yes, you go a few feet down, it changes in nature, and you go feet down, several other feet, and it changes. So therefore, it's very important to know the geology of the subterranean, and there we design those perforations, the perforated sections, in accordance with the soil structure to achieve a maximum efficiency of the suction. So this is a soil vapor extraction. It's a very valid technology, and it's being done extensively. The other technology is soil vapor intrusion mitigation. We mitigate against the intrusion of contaminated soil vapor into buildings. And I borrowed this conceptual diagram. I think I borrowed it from Los Angeles County, but anyway, one of those, I think it's Los Angeles County. And this diagram is basically was made for cases when there is the gas methane in the ground, and they want to make sure that the methane don't enter into the building. Methane, it's in my humble opinion, in many ways, it's much more dangerous than the toxic vapors that we remediate against. Not that I make it light, the toxic vapors, but toxic vapors may kill you or make you sick in a long time, 10, 20, 30 years, 5 years. Methane will explode in a second, all right? So, God forbid, will kill you in a fraction of a second or so. So they do it with methane, and we say whatever is good for methane is also good for the vapors that we are trying to protect from that are in the ground. So the basic idea here, how do you protect the building? You have here down below the contaminant plume, and so you dig trenches and you put those perforated pipes in the trenches, and the perforated pipe is connected to this box here, we call it a plenum, and there are many of those pipes, and they all connect to this plenum, and there is a vertical pipe coming out from the plenum, going inside the building or outside the building, it doesn't matter, to this blower that creates a suction, and it vents it out. Now, the perforated pipe, which is sitting in the trench, just above the trench, we put a barrier. Here it says fabric layer. It's a fabric, it's a special fabric which is hermetically sealed, okay? It's impervious, I think. Impervious to penetration of vapors. So so we put the membrane above the trench or above this the soil or the gravel that is there, and then on top of it we put the concrete slab. This is a heavy brown, gray. This is a concrete slab, and on top of it we put the building. So all of these measures are to prevent the methane or the toxic vapors from entering into the building. So the reason it is called mitigation, because unlike the soil vapor extraction, it is not intended, it is not designed to remediate, it is not intended to rectify, to heal the soil and to remove everything that is in the soil. Oh no. In the case of methane will keep coming at you forever, all right? So similarly, in many cases of soil vapor contamination, it can keep coming, but all what we are interested is in mitigation. Mitigation meaning we are not letting it enter into the building. So this is a very valid technology. We leave the contamination in place and we protect the building, and we have employed it in several of our projects. So this is called mitigation. And again, vapor intrusion mitigation system is a vapor barrier and active sub-slab depressurization. Okay, so that's the sub-slab depressure. I'm breaking my teeth on it. Depressurization, meaning we are reducing the pressure, we are sucking, creating vacuum, and this is how we put it out. Another remedial action, which is very valid, is natural attenuation. All right, leave it to Mother Nature. And there are cases where this is valid. We look at the contamination, we say, forget about it. Let us leave it in place, and we have good reasons to leave it in place. Mother Nature, in time, will take care of it, and it has its own bugs, or bacteria, we call them the bugs, and it will handle it. It's valid, it is being done, and you can even see it in regulatory material. At a certain cases, they say, okay, leave it in place, Mother Nature will take care of it. And Mother Nature is using bacteria. So about bacteria, bacteria are, we are having a class in biology. Bacteria are in a class of the tiniest living organisms. They range in shapes from spheres to rods and spirals. Bacteria were among the first life forms to appear on Earth. This is fascinating. I always ask myself how life started, but we are not going to get religious here at this moment. But bacteria were among the first life forms to appear on Earth. They are present in most habitats on the planet, growing in soil, acidic hot springs. Look on that. They survive in acidic hot springs, by golly. They survive in radioactive waste, in water, and deep in the Earth's crust. You can go a few miles down into the Earth's crust and you will still find bacteria there. I'm told that we are searching for bacteria even on on Mars and on the moon. So maybe there is still bacteria there under the surface, all right? So an ounce of soil can have over 1 billion bacterial cells, just an ounce of soil, over 1 billion. And 1 fluid ounce of fresh water can have 30 million bacterial cells. And the mass of bacteria on Earth exceeds that of all plants and animals. So look at that. I mean, you're asking who is the king? Well, I say the king is the bacteria. And they will eat everything. So they can even eat us if we don't stay careful. All right. So when cleanup professionals use nature to clean up contaminated sites, degradation through bacteria is a major contributing process. We use bacteria. We love bacteria. The rate of progress of biodegradation, bio means life, degradation meaning you degrade it by life, by living creature. So the rate of progress of biodegradation can be accelerated through various man-made technologies. So we have the bacteria down there, and sometimes we say, hey, bacteria, we want you to move faster than you are moving. We think you're a little bit lazy. We don't have time. I mean, you bacteria have been here for gazillions of years. I mean, we have been here for only a couple of hundreds of thousands of years. We don't have time like you have, all right? We want you to do it fast, all right? So we want to accelerate it. And these technologies of acceleration energize the subsurface microbial community to expand fast towards larger, newer, and farther conquests, overcoming barriers of tight silt and clay formations. The bacteria is so tiny it can enter where our suction systems don't enter. They can enter into silt and clay. The only byproducts are harmless water and carbon dioxide. That's what they generate. They eat it all, and all what they give us is water and carbon dioxide. Man, you cannot, I don't think we can lose with that. You cannot lose. That's a win-win thing. Here is a technology that a friend of mine invented. His name is Mark Ellis from Provo in Utah. Provo, I think. Provo or Provo? Whatever. Or is it Provo or Provo? It's a city in Utah, not far away from Salt Lake City. And he invented that technology, and he specifically applied it to contamination in gasoline stations where tank have leak. and the gasoline went all the way down to groundwater. And what he did, in some cases that he presented to me, he installed those green wells, green pipe, where he feed nutrients to the bacteria, and the blue pipe, if my memory serves me right, the blue pipe is air. So because bacteria, they need oxygen. So you feed them air through the blue pipe, you feed them nutrients through the green pipe, and then they become happy, they start eating, it creates CO2. But we have to remove the CO2, because if we don't remove, they will choke on their own CO2, right? And if you close a person, God forbid, in a room, and you hermetically seal all the room, eventually they will choke on their own CO2 that they manufacture in their own body, all right? So similarly, the bacteria will choke on their own CO2. So we need, when they eat the contamination, we need to remove the CO2. And we remove it out, and this way we help the bacteria do the job, all right? So Alexander Graham Bell, okay, he invented the original phone system, and he said, when one door closes, he was simply to be very, he was optimistic. When one door, and I think that's the way to do it or be, when one door closes, another opens. But we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door that we do not see the one which has opened for us. So we try always, when the door closed, let us look for the open door. Alexander Graham Bell, 1847 to 1922. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, call me, text me at 323-899-5001, or email me at ami@amiradini.com. Thank you very much, and I'll meet you at the next installment.